Jack says as soon as I hit the button, we get live.
We're alive.
We are live. I'm going to pull it up on the phone. Look how smooth I'm getting at this, guys. Super smooth. Oh, here we are. Live chat. Ooh, there's Jack. Morning. I mean, I'm used to doing my show in the morning. I don't even know. I just got home. Good evening. First comment and first like. Jack the man. Jack the Greenstock with a new book coming out. You got the first one up here, so you get the first plug.
It's up for pre-order, right?
Yeah, pre-order. Get your books now from Jack Greenstock. Head over to his DMs and hit him up. I got to pay him today. Jack Greenstock, 50 strains of green.
As soon as I get some money, I'll buy a copy.
Yeah, totally. And then he's going to have a sequel. 50 strains of purple, I think. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. I think he mentioned it on my show, so it's fine. Last day of pre-order, too. Good thing we're talking about it. Get your orders in. Ooh, we got Stabby McStabwood. Martial artist. Cool stuff. How are you guys doing tonight? Casey, Alki.
I'm doing good. Happy New Year to everyone. Great to see everyone. 8 people joining us already, so hip hip hooray for early in the night or late in the night, however you want to look at it. New year, new strains, new outlook on everything, and keep everything positive. That's how my year's going to be.
Awesome. I love it. All right,
Yeah.
let's do some introductions. We'll start with Alki. Alki, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Just having the grow coming along, and yeah, just about to flip it. So that's great.
Home grower from Denmark, representing
Exactly.
3 countries here.
It is looking beautiful from the and sharing with us.
Very beautiful. Large and in charge these plants are getting you have over there.
Yeah,
Are those all
usually.
autos or are they?
What do you say?
Are those all photo period or autos?
They're all photo period, yeah.
Excellent.
Cool. Well, I am Miss Nudie Grows, and we are all hosting tonight's show because we are all the hosts of this show. So I am a home grower from Alberta, Canada. I consult people in the background, and then I also work as a professional. I guess I'm a cultivator now again.
Yes.
And irrigation is still under my spectrum of things. So I'll just use my brand new title because I just got it today. So I am actually the production coordinator at Cannabis, which is like basically a facility lead. So I do things in cultivation and I also do things in irrigation, which is like the best of both worlds in my opinion. It's a very exciting day for me.
Yeah.
So yeah. Big things happening for me this year. That's what I'm doing. Still staying hustling on the side and full-time hustle at work in the legal industry.
So how long before it's too much to handle both work and home?
Yeah, you know, it's getting there, right? I actually have plans. I don't know if this is how the universe is aligning for me to get more responsibility at work, but I have plans to shut down my grow for summer. So, and that's the first time I've really done that on my own without being forced to shut down. So yeah, that's kind of just like so that I can have a little bit of freedom this summer. My house gets really, really hot in the summer. And so I want to maximize on not heating the place up. And then also I want to be able to go places like literally for the last year and a half, I've been tied to these plants at home. I can't go anywhere. Because I'm hand
Yeah,
watering. Yeah, in Coco.
Yeah, I get that. That's so awesome about your job and how it's moving forward for you so rapidly over there from the hole you were stuck in previously to now the awesome company you're with. It's
I
exciting.
know. Well, we can just say it. Fuck sundial growers.
Well, we never ever mentioned them once. So that one time,
Yeah. Rest in peace. Yeah.
Rest in peace. So I'm Honeybear Casey. I'm a caregiver in Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where this year we have absolutely no snow for some reason. So it's getting a little ridiculous. We only have like 5 inches on the ground. It was 35 degrees again today. So um, great to see all the Michigan guys getting in here already. Abolished is in here.
Mm-hmm.
Is in here.
Oh yeah, seeing them abolished. Nice. You got a good crew out there, hey? You got a good community.
There's some awesome growers and an awesome community that is in Michigan. And it's good to see it sticking together still. Regulation.
It's one of my places I want to visit once COVID calms down is Michigan. There's places in the States that I love to visit for cannabis reasons, and Michigan was never on that list until I started growing and just getting out there more. And then now most of my friends are actually from Michigan, and it's like such a huge community that I don't think enough people know about.
It isn't. We were tucked away so long in the Midwest, and now here we are in the forefront for the Midwest with recreational sales and all that going. So it's.
And some of the stuff I see pumping out of Michigan, like, I mean, obviously I can't try it, but I can see pictures and like it's dank.
Oh yeah, there's some great breeders that are from Michigan, and people always thought they were from Michigan, but it's true, they are from Michigan.
Yeah, I love that show. I mean, it's one of the best shows, one of my regulars. Michigan Bro shows. Big shout out to those guys.
Oh, big shout out.
Yeah.
So, who wants
chat
to start?
is hopping. Yeah, where do we want to start, guys? We've been discussing cloning and some of people's different techniques for cloning. And so I don't know. I feel like we should delve into that first if you guys are cool with that. I work a lot primarily at work. I work with in the veg cycle the most, I guess. I spend a lot of my energy on that because to me that's where you build your foundation, and it's almost the most important, in my opinion. If you have a plant healthy all throughout veg, you should keep your plant healthy prior to flower and only flower it when it's healthy. And then flower is a fucking breeze usually. The only things you have to worry about are like your plant's getting too big.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So let's talk mothers and cloning, maybe, like, that's where everything starts.
I mean, everything with life, it's a lot easier for you when you start with a healthy base. You start with something that's sick, it's going to be sick, and you're going to be fighting it. You're going to be fighting to get roots. You're going to be fighting the entire life of it, and who knows if it'll ever get healthy, and what's the point in that?
Why do you want to start out fighting?
I mean, the biggest problem I see with people is you're taking clones and you got unhealthy clones, and it's, I'll make that one live and bring it back to life. Screw it. Cut it down, throw it out, and start over. It's a lot quicker, a lot less headache on you. Yeah, you can make it healthy, all that, but by the time you have the time and effort into it, what's the point?
Yeah, I usually take the more or less praying shoots, those that are like the top 3. And if I can't take that, I'll take the next row. But like when they start praying, like 2 hours after lights on or something like that, I'll take them.
Oh yeah.
And I was gonna ask you, Casey, are you using newts or any low nutrient solution when you clone?
The only thing I use is Clonex that I dip it in, and that is it.
Right. Low pH?
Actually, I'll go I go a little step further. I'm a little anal about that. I go to the grocery store and buy the actual spring water that isn't spring water, and I use that stuff for it, just for the clone cycle, especially if I'm using an aero cleaner. That's what I do every time.
Oh, just to get a clean water? I mean, like that hasn't been in touch with anything, or what's your?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure my reservoir isn't 110% clean. I mean, it does have an open top in it. There are contaminants in the air. That way, I'm just starting with something brand new and straight out of the bottle, right off.
And no nutrients, just Clonex. That's how I do it as well.
No nutrients whatsoever until they have roots.
Exactly, until they need it. All the food's in their leaves. I don't know, but I see results too at work without spilling our secrets. I mean, they use some sort of, we use like a recipe or whatever. It's very low dose. And although I do see, and I don't know any of the background or science for this, but like, it's almost like they root faster, but they don't look as healthy. You know, like right off the bat, it's almost like they have lockout or deficiencies starting right away. And I don't know whether that's pH related, because we're very careful about pH. But it's like mine take longer at home, but I don't have that same, like they look healthier. You know what I mean? And we use about 5.7, 5.8 pH in rooters and ProMix.
Are you doing a 24-hour light at work?
Yeah, 24 hours. Yeah,
that's also
low lights,
to prevent the wilt.
Yeah, and they're in domes, and they have like the top of the line environment for sure. I'm just like, we're trying to dial in the recipe, right? Which is like, I see them, they all root, and it's like everything's fine. It just, they don't always look as nice as I would like them.
That's almost a little hard thing for clones to start. I mean, you're not really looking for them to take up the potassium and whatnot at that level, and magnesium at that level. So I think you'd want to be in like the 6 to 6.2 range with the plants, and that might be why you're getting some of that lockout in the beginning.
Yeah, like to me, when I see that was the first thing that I thought, because it's like a lighter in the middle and then it spreads out. So it's like, that looks like low pH to me. That's like a low pH thing. But when I brought that up, so, and not that everyone knows everything there, but they were saying that, no, that looks like high pH. So they were bringing the pH down. And I'm like, especially when you're using nutrients with clones or early veg, I always increase the pH to account for like root zone pH, and the fact that if you overfeed it, and this is just what I've learned, I don't know if this is accurate, but if you overfeed it and you have a higher pH, it's going to stabilize easier.
Well, in that point in your life, you're wanting them to uptake the nitrogen, and that's higher on the pH scale for where it uptakes.
Right, just even looking at the pH scale, yeah. I want to fool around more with that. What do you do, Alfie? Because you were using a little bit of nutrients.
Well, I've just tried things. Last time when I had roots in 6 days, and then the rest of the bunch rooted on the 7th day, I used like a drop of Clonex. This was from a YouTube video. Can't remember his name now, but I can find it. I can link it later. Used like a drop of Clonex, mixed that into the water, pH it to 5.8. The B part, or the CalMac, 0.5 milliliters, and 0.1 milliliter of PK 1314. And actually, I watched another video from Raw Nutrients. What's he called again? Yeah, Harley Smith. That's the name. Harley Smith. He also says that you should use just a tiny bit of PK when the clones are just newly rooted. The clones that are rooted, you've seen them in my pictures, and I also gave them 0.1 of PK with just CalMac, because supposedly you need low nitrogen when they're just newly rooted. So yeah, I just follow that, and I mean, I trust that guy, Harley Smith.
I know. I'm gonna try that, because you and I chatted, and I wrote down that recipe. So
yeah, He's one of the few. He's one of the few nutrient companies that actually put out some videos and like make like a presentation or a little, what do you call it, a little screencast for people. So yeah.
And what's your success rate like for using that, like roots? How many days?
That depends, but like for me, the most important thing is the seal and the temps, and the fact that you open it up like and have it fully open at day 5 or so.
Oh yeah, because it's that RH stress that helps them root as well, especially in the I use rooters, so when they're looking for the water out the bottom.
Yeah, they need to be acclimated. I think that's the word.
Yeah, acclimated, hardened off. That's a good word.
Hardening them off. Good way.
But yeah, that's that stress that will create them to shoot out the roots too. Something to do with science and hormones.
And I don't water them. I mean, like I just soak those root riot plugs or whatever, the gelatinized peat. Then I just squeeze them just a little bit so it goes into the tray. And then I pop that in, and that will keep them extra moist, but not too dry, you know, from squeezing it. And then you will see the roots before they are completely dry. And if they dry completely, then it will probably not root anyways. So.
Right. That's the thing too, is sometimes I'm negligent and I don't always catch them, and they'll come in and go, no, it literally doesn't take much sometimes for those little rooters to dry up.
Yeah, they dry up fast when they do it too.
Mm-hmm. A new technique that I was just recently saw was a tray of rooters, but then underneath there's Pro-Mix, and the Pro-Mix is like not wet at all, just moist, and like it's shooting the roots down into that, and then they're also not like drying out and dying.
Interesting.
I mean, I don't like how you have to really get in there and transplant them right away, because then all the roots start competing and they turn into a big fucking hot mess. But like underneath, you know.
Interesting.
But I mean, it helped keep the moisture in.
My trick to raise the temps is I always reuse my driver's heat. If I have a light running, I can move that driver around. If I need more temps in the bottom of the tent, I'll move it in front of the intake. If I need to take clones, I'll move it over to the clone tray besides it, because then I get that extra constant heat. Instead of buying a cloning mat, I'll just reuse what I already paid for. And yeah, people say that there's a great difference between different strains, that some strains are fast rooters and some strains are just, always
they
slow
take
rooters.
longer.
Yeah.
Definitely strain to strain for sure.
Yeah, I've had some strains written 4 days, and some strains take 17 days, just strain dependent.
Or if we're talking monster cropping, some of those have taken well over a month. The one that I'm flowering out right now, the Raspberry Boogie, I took her in, I don't know, week 7 of flower, because I almost lost the genetics, and I was like, there's no way this is gonna work. And it took 6 weeks, but that bitch rooted. So the balance is just trying to make sure it doesn't get moldy before it roots, which is a hard moisture balance.
Oh, that's gotta be a pain, but you got it to take, okay?
Yeah, I needed to save it. And now I'm flowering this. I have a mother now again. And so I flowered out this beast. And she was born in February, basically. She's thick.
You're all done.
And monster crop, too. Like re-vegged and just nodes and nodes and nodes and nodes and nodes.
Well, hopefully it has enough energy weight on it.
What's that?
That's the important part of acclimating them and opening up the dome, because you just want just want them to take in moisture through the leaves.
Yeah.
But in a few days, you need to open it up and you still need to watch them closely, because if you don't, you will just get that, like you said, like a nitrogen deficiency looking like, and maybe some of the side shoots, the small shoots wilting or molding, so just throw them out if that happens.
Oh yeah, you got to be in there and take, especially when you're re-vegging something, because the growth all comes back really, like, it's almost like they have tiny curly hair, and you have to get in there and snip it all out, or the buds die and rot. So
Yep. Cut it all off. Start over, just leave the tips.
You got to give its legs a little shave. Yeah.
And then it's always nodes shooting out of, you got 100 nodes shooting out of a square inch. So
exactly. Fuck yeah. Very nice and flower, but yes, such a bitch and veg.
Mm-hmm. We got into a little re-veg in there.
Yeah, revegetation. I tried recently to revegetate a plant after harvest because I lost my candida genetics, which I found because thank God I've given away a lot of clones, so I'm getting it back. But I went like balls to the wall looking for this thing because it's award winning and you cannot buy seeds anywhere. It's been sold out forever. Whatever medical marijuana genetics is like, I don't know what happened to them, but they have dank CBD and you can't buy the seeds. So anyways, I found the plant that was just going into harvest, brought it back into my place, and it got a touch of the cold. So it looked quite dead upon arrival. And I was like, ugh, like, I don't know. And yeah, it totally died because it was starting to get moldy. So I had to take it out of the tent. I wasn't going to risk the rest of my genetics to save this one plant that's probably just going to die. It's fucking hard.
It is, and sometimes you just got to make that choice and throw shit out.
Yeah, and then literally the next day, I got a DM with someone saying, "Is this Candida?" I'm like, yeah, bitch, that's it. Give me a cut now. You know, when you know a plant, you know a plant.
Yep. That is true. You get to learn every little inch of them and every little quirk they have.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's fun about growing them.
You know when you
piss them off.
Bigger is what I want. I love vigorous strains.
Oh, me too.
Yep.
Do you have any seeds that you're that are known for being vigorous that you're excited about? Anyone popping anything vigorous?
Well, like I mentioned on the last show, and now that's opportunity to correct. Jack Dreamstar pointed out that the EC levels I mentioned were pretty high. And like I explained to him, first of all, it was a peak. It was because of the recirculating. And probably I was feeling a little bit too high. So that's why I rose to 2.9, 3.2, 2.7, 3.2, something like that. So it was momentarily, and I was just quick and flushing it out. But also, most people aren't used to growing with hard water. And what you do when you have a hard water, you compensate for that, what I call blur of minerals. You don't know what those minerals are. So I usually just say add half of your background EC to the target. So that makes sense. I mean, so if you have 0.7, that's around 0.3 extra on top.
Yeah, mine's 0.6 here. No, even higher. It's almost 0.7. Just to start. What's in it?
Orange.
Salt.
Mine's orange.
Orange.
Yeah. Our water comes out of the tap orange.
Oh, that's
the water.
It's definitely. It's gross. Mine stains my stuff orange, but at least it doesn't look orange yet. You could smell it's meant to be orange.
Right when you turn it on first thing in the morning and it sits overnight or whatever, it'll come out a little.
The sediment? Yeah.
It's disgusting.
I have the sediment too, but it's like I don't notice it until I fill a bucket and then it settles all down to the bottom. I'm like, hey, what is that? Food.
I've got 8 filters for my RO system that I have all built in for different filters to get it cleaned up. So
Yeah.
just to get it down 10 ppms.
When I have my own place to do that kind of shit, which I'm very excited about one day, then I'll do that. But I rent right now, so it's not worth it for me.
It's not worth it.
I'm gonna fix this place up for someone else.
You gotta change your light bulbs first.
Yeah, I don't even do that, Casey. I'll take you over there. It's still out. Actually, 2 are out now.
Oh boy.
Yeah. What do you think?
Nudie was making about the gummies the other day and walking around and had a light out on the ceiling, and I pointed it out to her on video. So
yeah, my light, my live, yes.
No OCD.
I was gonna ask, what is your opinion on that? Like clones with or without notes? Like, is there any theory to suggest that?
Anytime I've ever tried adding some nutrients to it, I've always had worse luck. I know people that do it. I know people that don't. Me personally, I'm not a fan of it.
Right.
And I don't have enough experience yet. I'm excited to experiment more at home. Like I just have the experience at work, but I want to be like in full control. Like, so try out what you've suggested and then I'll report back.
Yeah, less is more when you're doing that, but
Absolutely.
I'd like to know if there's any theory or any science to suggest that, because aerocloners, it's always with nodes. I mean, and is there anything to suggest that those little knobs, when they grow out on the side of the branch and on the side of the cut, is there anything to suggest that they would benefit from just a little bit of CalMag, PK?
I mean, yeah, once they're nubbing and starting to root, I can see the benefit of it. You know, for that first 4 days, there's nothing uptaking. So all I see is there's no point of it even being in there if there's nothing uptaking those first 3-4 days.
Yeah, and since they're rooting anyways, I mean,
unless it's some kind of rooting hormone.
Yeah, I like what he did. That guy on YouTube that he put it into the water. I don't know. I just think that makes a lot of sense that you dilute that glob into the water and then soak your plugs with it. Because if you then have the seal, or maybe the seal comes off as you put it in, you still have a little bit of the rooting hormone and stuff. And I'm not saying that it's like absolutely required that you use the rooting hormone, because I know one guy from the DML show, Poops, he's done maybe 200 clones or something like that, he said, and used with and without gel, and the success rate, not indifferent at all to him. So so I think it's all about the seal. I mean, are you using root riots? Are you using rock wool? And you definitely have a better seal if you're doing it beside the plug. I mean, beside the little hole that's pre-made.
Oh yeah, that's how I do it too. I make a new hole. Because it hugs the stem tighter. Because those pre-made holes are usually too big. And they let the air in. Even the Rockwell cubes at work, I used to flip them around and poke a hole just beside the other hole. Perfect.
Exactly. That's also what that guy on YouTube did. He flipped the root riots upside down. He poked a little hole. I just used a toothpick or something.
Jeez.
And also that made like a pyramid form.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's very beneficial, because then if it's rooting out on top, you'll see it on the side quicker.
Mm-hmm. Healthy moms make healthy clones.
Healthy plants all around. They get sick, throw them out.
If your plants aren't healthy, I wouldn't recommend cloning off of them. I would wait and get your plant healthy and then clone off your plant. I know Alki said he clones them like when they first wake up.
No, I clone when they are starting to perk up. Like
yeah, like a couple hours, like in the morning though, like a couple hours in.
A couple hours in, like 2 hours in, when they start to perk up, when the temperature has risen, and like I always say, the LEDs, they have such a concentrated, focused ray of heat. So my personal theory is that the difference between the root zone temps and the canopy temps, because of that like pyramid formed ray of light, I think that's why LEDs need to run higher temps in general.
I've never really paid attention to when I've taken clones, so that's why I'm interested. Have you like compared this with versus like taking them right before they go to bed, or like and then also I was thinking like some people say to clone right after your plants have been hydrated, or versus cloning when they're dry, because then the clones will be dehydrated.
Say when they're praying, I mean, like, and if they're not, try to raise your temperature a little bit and see when they're praying and stiff and perking up.
And do you take them from the lower or the top?
The top always. Like I prefer the tops, but if I'm gonna save like a big main stem or something like that, I'll just take from the next row.
And what about you, Casey? Because I take from the bottom.
I'm a middle.
Of course.
I like the ones that are hardened off a little bit versus the brand new shoots. That's why I grab the middle. The ones at the way bottom, I figure, are the tough ones that are harder to root. Something I do different, I take them right before they go to bed, and I keep my clones in the dark for 24 hours before they get any light.
Ooh, interesting. So, and why is that?
A little stress. And I've always had, when I turn the lights back on, they just perk right up. They're all standing up straight. And this is taking big trays of clones, and it's something I read once upon a time and have done it ever since, and it works good for me.
That's pretty neat. I've not heard that before.
But then the light never shuts off. Well, the light never shuts off then after that. It's on 24 hours after that. So.
But what about temperature? Like what Alki was saying, like I know my clones prefer a certain temperature, and if they're in the dark, or you just have a heat mat. I see. Okay.
Heat mat, so that keeps that humidity in there. It's keeping it 95 to 100% humidity for that first 2-3 days. One thing I also do different is daily, I let them get 5 minutes air. Right after day 2, I start giving them 5 minutes air, and go longer and longer every day after that.
And how long do you usually take to get roots? Just depends on strain mostly, or because I know you mentioned that earlier.
If they're mothers that are trained for cloning, 5 to 8 days. Depends what I'm using. If I'm using just straight Coco out of the bag, if I'm using plugs, I switch it up, play around, fun experimenting and changing it up a little bit.
Ooh, yeah. Sometimes I just get a solo cup, poke holes in the bottom, fill it with Pro Mix, and stick it in. And it roots every single time. That's actually the most success I have. It takes way longer, but it's the most success I have.
So here's another way for you. You know, when you poke all the holes in the bottom, it doesn't like to sit level a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. Just 1 second.
DIY.
Okay, I just cut flat out of the sides.
What is that?
Right,
yes, okay.
Right where the solo cup. It's a solo cup, so where the bottom meets the side, I just
Yeah.
cut in like 3-4 places going around the bottom. I cut there, and it all drains out the same. And then it's
Nice.
just
Okay. And you know what? You know how many times I've stabbed myself from like.
well, and I've taken
Actually-
drills and ran stacks of them, and
Your solo cup reminded me of a genius thing that I can't remember. I want to say it was Brandon Rust who I got this from, but instead of snipping around like that, they just used a lighter and burnt little holes like how you have on the side there. That literally just reminded me of that. And I'm like, yeah, I was gonna try that, and I forgot.
yeah, no, I just cut a bunch of them yesterday, so I got a bunch of these little things floating around, little red corners of the that I got to sweep up that I missed a few here and there, and they're always
Yeah.
around everywhere.
If you burn them, they just go into nothing.
Yeah, but then you gotta smell that shit. Who likes the smell of burnt plastic?
No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. Mmm. Yeah, Spartan Girl. He likes my stolen idea.
All right, guys. What do you think? Should we move on
All right.
to topics?
Yeah, sure. I'm ready.
Sure.
Yeah.
You guys start. I'm gonna go pay Jack on PayPal right now. I'm listening though.
Oh, great.
Well, then we can talk Coco, Casey.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, because this is like a divided topic on this. How many times a day do you feed in Coco? And is it like different whether you have auto fertigation or hand watering?
If I have an auto water set up, I like to feed 4 to 6 times a day, if not 8 times a day when the lights are on. With hand watering, of course, obviously that's a lot to do with one person at that point in time, and I try and have them in big enough pots to where I only have to water once a day.
Yeah, like 5 gallons or
Where
so.
they won't dry out, get bone dry. I don't believe in letting your cocoa get dry like that. It should always be moist to the touch, not soaked, but moist.
Exactly. And what do you think about people who say algae and mold and fungus gnats like from 4 to 6 times per day? What do you think?
They suck and it happens.
Yeah.
When you're watering something that frequently, obviously you're going to get those fungus gnats because you're creating perfect environment for them to live in. And wherever you're getting your cocoa from, I'm sorry, it's not perfectly clean. It never is. There's always larvae in it somewhere. So you're going to get something in there. And so you got to figure out and have IPM to deal with it.
And are you worried about if you have like a hive, a mold on top of the pots or algae? I mean, would you be worried that that could maybe transfer to the plant?
Algae is not so much. Most algae I know of are good for plants, especially broken down. Molds, I'm not a big mold fan. Anything that I get rid of it.
Me neither.
I have allergies to molds, so I can't really, grow with different types of molds, anything like that for that symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. I've now finished maybe 3 rows, I think, with 4 to 7 times per day feeds, and sometimes it's completely random. I mean, sometimes I get that hive. I got that on one pot this time, like that hive, like mold on top of the pot, and I just use a fork and whirl that around, so it doesn't sit there, and.
One of my stupid things I do every single day that it's repetitive and whatnot is when I'm watering everything by hand, I'll go around and I stir up all the top half-inch of soil with my fingers every single day. Every single day, no matter what. So it's
on
always
every plant.
What's that?
On every plant, every pot?
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. Every time they get watered, that soil gets stirred up before I put the water in.
Interesting. Because I understand the perspective, like I was saying, obviously, I'm like, I see those high frequency feeding, as Dr. MJ Coco calls it. I see that as the returns will diminish after the 3 times per day. When you're doing two times per day, roughly you will not get double the growth, but you'll probably get, I don't know, 30% or something like that. But the more feeds you add on top of it, like up to 7, it will just diminish like in percentage of gain.
You want to keep them plants at that optimum moisture level in their soils to where they have enough oxygen in there and they're able to still uptake what they need to uptake. It's finding that happy medium, and when you find that happy medium, the exponential growth you get out of the plants is ridiculous.
Exactly. And you need to add some perlite in there too. And what do you think? No, not really.
I don't use perlite.
You don't?
Nope. Straight cocoa.
But you're using RO, so maybe that's the deal.
Yeah, I use RO water. Yes,
Yeah.
correct. I do use RO water.
Maybe that's why I had the impression that for all the times I've used hot water and pure cocoa, I think like this, the salts and the CalMag just sticks. Maybe every time I use pure cocoa, it's just like I need to use 5 times the water to reset the EC.
Really?
Yeah, it's just my experience. But
so do you give your plants water cycles when they're in flower or veg? Do you give them a water cycle throughout their schedule, or do you just feed them every day?
no, I don't give them a pH water cycle, but I definitely know guys who grow great in cocoa, like just as healthy as as everybody else, and using pure pH water. And it contradicts what Dr. MB Coco writes in his book. But like many people say, you will redissolve some of the CalMag, redissolve some of the nutrients, and yeah, I mean,
I don't believe so. I believe once it's there, it's there. The plant's going to uptake what it uptakes every day. What it doesn't uptake is going to be in the soil and it just gets washed out. I don't really see even when you're flushing, you're looking at making the plant self-cannibalize itself and eat what it's got inside it with cocoa. There's not that much really stored up inside the cocoa. It's not that great for, I'm trying to think exactly to say this right before I get everyone mad at me. That stoner moment, I forgot what I was trying to get to.
all right, just think of it. Come back to it. Yeah. Well, I've not done the pure pH water, but I've seen guys that are killing it, So
I don't. I give them 8 days at the end, but that's about it. Otherwise, mine get fed every day.
Yeah.
I don't overfeed. I don't burn anything.
I also know many people who do, like, they do feed water, or maybe they're not sticking to that exact schedule, but maybe they're doing feed, and then they assess. And think like, what did I do last time? Did I go feed water? Did I go feed water? Whatever. So yeah, so they're not following it strictly, but they're just balancing it, watching the plant how it grows and how they assess it. Look at the saturation in the leaves and make an opinion on that, on what to do next.
Yeah, I mean I agree. It's again, there is no one way of doing anything. That's what's so wonderful about this plan. It's a teacher to all of us. It's every plan is different. Also, every environment changes what the plan uptakes. It's dialing in your environment and going from there.
And there's a lot of unmapped signs still. I mean, like,
we haven't had time to research it. It's been illegal for so long. It's what research can we do? We're growing out in mom and dad's backyard. We're growing in closets. We're growing. Let us research this plant for 5 years and see where we're at.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I'm so excited for the next like 5 to 10 years for research to start, like real science to come out. And like, just, I keep saying like nobody has the way, like not yet. I wait and see what the science says, and then you tell me the recipe. But it's so strain to strain dependent, like there's so much to research that it's going to take a long time.
I believe what makes a good grower is, number one, learning how to read your plants. You got to know when they're pissed at you. You got to know when they're upset. You got to know when they're happy. You got to know what gets them in that sweet spot. That's what makes you a good grower. Learn from your plants. Learn from everyone.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
So, guys, I had a question posed to me in chat that I caught here a little bit ago. How long would you guys flush in DWC?
I have very little experience with this, so I'm going to back out and smoke this J.
Yeah, me too. I've not run DWC, but I'd love to do it.
That's for you, Casey. I just read that chat question, and that's directed at you, dude.
No, it was. I've grown in DWC a couple times. I haven't had amazing success with it, but I'm a firm believer with all plants, anything over 10 days is too much flushing. I think 10 days, if you are going to flush, is about the max. When you're going past that, you're wasting days you could have been building weight, building terpenes, building your terpenes up, building, your resin production up, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I think 10 days sounds like a lot in DWC.
Over 10 days.
You're using RO water too, right? Like that's the change I
will
made.
only use RO water, yes.
That's the change I made this time, Casey, and I'm seeing the flush happen way faster. And so it's like, duh, I have 0.7 EC in my well water. I'm never going to flush these plants if I'm using that. It just like clicked.
I also use a product, Drip Queen by House and Garden. I don't care what I grow with, whatever nutrients I grow with, Drip Queen will always be part of my regimen.
And is that like a salt remover? Like I use Foliar? Yeah, it's like residual.
I've used Foliar Queen and whatnot, but when I started using Drip Queen, what I noticed in flower taste was amazing. Everything just tasted so much cleaner.
Yeah, I need to start experimenting more. That's just the first one I've ever bought, so there's no loyalty to general hydroponics at all.
Yeah, I've obviously I'm a House and Garden fan since I'm wearing one of their fancy hats they gave me last year. But that Drip Queen is one of them products that I'll never ever grow without.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm just learning now, is that I'm finally. Because I'm so new to this, so it's like you really have to experiment with different products, and in order to do these experiments, it takes time and effort.
I've been doing this for 20 years, and I still feel like I'm new to it every day, and I love it.
So exactly, that's how I feel. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just like, I'm gonna get it dialed in. And you learn a strain, even though, I have the longest strain I've learned is the Candida, right? That I've been growing for 3 years, but that's nothing compared to some people that have been growing for 20 plus years, these Afghans in their basement or whatever.
A buddy of mine had the same mom alive for 4 years. The stalk on her was 4.5, 5 inches around when they killed her finally, but 4 years he had the same mom alive.
Did they flower her out at least and give her a good send off? Damn. Flower out your moms, people.
Nope, they got out the sawzall, chopped her down, and threw her in the waste pile. She got inputted into a commercial system, so flowering her out would have been kind of
Yeah.
pointless.
Bye.
And
Yeah,
she
I
was
know all about
older.
that. Get them in the wheelbarrow and get them out.
Yep. Yeah, that was Tony Clifton, I believe that mom was, if I remember right. So
Yeah, RIP to all the mothers that had to pass away this week. I know some personally that left the building in my own homegrown network. You did us a service, madams. RIP.
And that's just it, sick plants that are past their prime, moms that you've just whacked the shit out of for 2 years.
Well,
there's no point.
They're so hard to keep healthy past a year, like nutritionally. I mean, they don't need a lot, but it's still, they only want to live a year. They're annual.
To keep that vigorous growth going, to keep the
clones.
So you can take clones off them every 3 weeks. You gotta still pump the shit up.
If you think about it in the big spectrum, it's like a breeding factory. I just like walk in, like, who's giving birth today? Like, or the other day, I know this is really, really black, but like me and my coworker were like taking out a big sack of pruning, and we're like, this is like after a day at the old abortion clinic, getting rid of the waste. There's like mothers. So bad, I know, so bad. Yeah, like when I start to let my brain go there, I'm like, whoa. All the potential, baby.
I'm not typing anything in chat. I'm just going to ask Spartan on here. Do you guys still have that giant mother alive at Mitten Canna Company? And how old is she? If you're still paying attention to Sparty on here.
He's on there.
I know he's on here. But have you seen pictures of that mother? That thing was 12 feet tall and probably about 12 feet around. They had the picture of 3 of them standing in front of her. She was a giant.
Just like the potential, I love a big mom too. Like, I love a big mom.
Those
None of this keeping them small.
A great job for commercial cannabis. So they need to expand so they can get more stores.
What do you guys think? Should we move on to the next topic? Well, Spartan just replied.
Oh, no, she was cut into 200 days clones the day after the picture.
Wow, that's a lot of clones from one mother.
There we go.
That was a giant mother. She was huge. It was one of the best mother pictures I've seen of the year. So
she was cut into 200 clones the day after the picture.
That's a lot of clones from one plant, really.
Yeah, so let's move on.
Yeah.
Next.
I was going to talk about why pruning works. And I mean, if you Google pruning, you'll get a lot of horticultural pages, like for any plant that addresses pruning. So it's definitely a well-known topic, like almost basic in horticulture science. So I can't understand why we can't use it on a weed. I mean, it is a weed after all, but where I think people go wrong when they say that pruning doesn't have a purpose or whatever. I mean, most of them, they're looking at anatomy papers. So they're looking at the anatomy papers and they're looking like, okay, sugar travels, sugar goes into leaves, blah, 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 I think that the anatomy is not how you should approach it. I think you should think that outdoors, they're getting a huge wind, like, almost a tornado. I mean, that rips off some leaves and yeah, it's a natural process of it, of living, that it just loses some leaves. I mean, that stress, it's hard to recreate, especially in a little home grow. Those little puny fans, I mean, it's nothing compared to the force of nature. I mean, But I actually just the strain I have going now is the Cushman's Extra Nana, and I know I shared this with you guys that the breeder from Purple City Genetics actually put pruning in his description.
Hmm.
And
I think it's very strain dependent for sure.
Yeah, that's also what people are mentioning.
And also your grow space dependent also, you know, what you're looking to achieve.
Yeah, like a lot of variables, but I'm on the side of pruning. Absolutely. Everyone knows that. It's a hot topic on my page for sure. But I mean, I don't think I do anything excessive. I'm not dipping into the 3 pounds a light or whatever, the whole Schwazi thing. And like you said, it's a horticulture technique that's what I was first, a horticulture gardener, you know. So my grandpa taught me how to do those things, and before my very own eyes, I'd see pruning created bigger yields. And so when I started growing cannabis, and I've done lots of experiments, so if it's just based on that, I don't think it's enough yield that it makes much of a difference. But at the same time, it does increase yield depending on when you prune and how you prune. The other thing is, like you said, all the variables, the space, the RH in your tent, like the VPD that you're trying to dial in, mold, bud rot, strain, heavy indicas, like my bushy raspberry boogie. If I didn't defoliate that thing all through flower, I'd have bud rot right now because the nugs are dense. And so surrounded by like fan leaves everywhere, I gotta get that shit out of there.
So if I don't prune her, she gets PM on it between her leaves. She just produces that many leaves, and it's a bitch.
Yeah, it's sometimes that's what I mean. It's a bitch. It's like they're like, oh yeah, hold my beer, and then they're just like They just need it. They need it. But then there's some sativas. I'm just saying, most of my experience, sativa dominant plants that I barely even prune. Like I just don't even touch because like let them just do their thing, and they don't really need it a lot of the time since their leaves are sparser and they're not gonna, you know. But it's very strain dependent. But I'm on the side of pruning for sure.
It's strain dependent, and it's also goal dependent. I'd say are you looking at growing 4 plants? Are you looking at growing 16 square feet of plants? Are you looking at growing, 50 square feet of plants? So when you're doing that pruning, in that 16 square feet, if you're adding 20, 30 grams, imagine adding another 16 feet, which is just a 4x4 area. So, you add another 4x4 area, you're adding 20, 30 grams, all of a sudden you're adding 40 to 60 grams. It multiplies that way. And the biggest point of it all is utilizing every square inch of light coming down. You don't want wasted space on light. You want as many nodes as you can poking up at the same level, because that's where the light's going to have its most energy, its most focus. So that's why in a commercial space, or if you're growing in a big tent and you're growing with a screen in there and you're trying to get a nice canopy in there, you want to have that canopy level so you're producing the most per square inch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And more uniform buds too, because in a commercial setting, you want all your nugs to be basically the same size and nice and uniform and tight.
Yeah. And when you're looking at the plant, you'll get them little ones coming off the bottom, and you guys know what I'm talking about. They have them little ass branches on it. They're never going to produce anything. Yes, they produce 0.2 of a gram. What the hell's the point in keeping that so the plant takes energy? Cut that shit out of there. Throw it away.
And thank you. That's the explanation that my brain wanted to say with the yield thing, and that's why that works. That's why that works. It's how you explained it very nicely.
It is.
It's a redirection of energy.
Or is it, a square footage thing?
And everyone has different goals.
For what you do.
Exactly.
But sometimes you also just pop 3 seeds and you have 2 with super tight internodal space. And even if you have fans in there, I mean, they'll just keep growing shoots and they'll just keep growing leaves. And you can save yourself a lot of fucking vegging time by just pruning those leaves, taking off a few shoots.
Those tight internodal spacings, those are the ones I really love plucking leaves off of and getting them out of there.
Oh yeah,
I
and
love
it's
pruning those.
therapeutic in its own sense. Like if you have a really, I get to do that at work, which is awesome and fun. So you get to do it in large amounts. But at home, if you have like a really heavy indica that's always like needing defoliation, it's really nice to get in there and
Yeah.
clean it up.
You can get stuff out. All it does is take energy away from that plant. It's never getting light on it. It's never doing anything besides sucking. It's a succubus.
It's like a child. It's a child. You cut that thing off and make it a child. It's a clone. Boom. Look.
I also think that's like the third argument. Like, you can also spend or waste a lot of time on pruning a lot of plants, like regularly. If you're doing that 3 times and you have a lot of huge plants, many shoots, you'll be wasting a lot of time pruning plants. I mean, like, that's a lot of manpower going into just pruning. But I can see why some people are just saying straight out, I will prune them 3 times, you know, like they say, mango tech, for example, 3 times. I can't remember the days exactly, but you know, it's like through the first until mid of flower, right? And I think the reason why they standardized it like that is because if you have a plant that is maybe short internodal spacing and checks all the parameters, I mean, it needs pruning to stay vigorous. Just like I just witnessed on this plant I grew, is some strains just need that pruning to stay vigorous.
Yes.
Because they're hard to grow strains.
And also everyone's looking for what's the same way we can do it time after time after time again. That's why these books like that are popular. It's okay, how can we do it to generalize everything so it's the same, so everyone thinks it's the same? But as we all know in cannabis, every plant is not the same.
Yeah.
Everything has to be different.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you can definitely make up your own method. I mean, like,
and that's where reading the plant comes in. Read your plant, know what she wants.
Yeah, it goes back to the basics.
Next time, don't do it.
I start young too, just to test. Like I usually have a lot of the same strains kicking around, so I know what's going on. But then every few months, I like to start new ones, and with those ones, I start really young. Like start with the young topping just to see how they respond to that, and then I always defoliate the bottom 2 nodes right away, so my plants look like little skeletors. But it's basically how you would start a main line or something like a main line, and that's how I can tell right away if I can usually tell. But like you said, reading the plant and knowing if they're gonna be a plant I need to defoliate or a plant that hates it.
Yeah, it's also about surface area and the threshold. If you have a way larger plant with many shoots and many leaves, then you probably need to take way more leaves on to get way more leaves off to get that effect that you're looking for. But on a small plant, you just have a few nodes. I mean, I do like how do you pronounce it? Genevieve?
What's that?
How do you pronounce that? Genevieve?
Yeah, you did a good job.
Okay, right.
Perfect.
So I do like you. I prune out the first node, the very first node, just above the cotyledons, because in my experience, that's just always where, I mean, it's different from seed to seed, but it's always those shoots down there that end up having an extra bit of space between that node and the next node. Upwards, you'll get like more or less an even space, but
you guys froze.
Oh no!
Oh no, you're back.
Did you hear what I say?
I missed the last little bit. You froze or something.
I'm just saying.
I know why you're cutting away those bottom ones, because it's probably the same reason I do. Because most of the time I end up cutting that part off anyways later.
Yeah, that's a waste of energy, like a waste of osmotic pressure. So why not prune out that shoot sitting there by the cotyledons, because if you have that wide gap, there's no way you're gonna change that. Well, you can main stem train, you can pull it to the side. Well, and now you have created a different osmotic pressure, because if you're in a U, when your mainstream is lying down, then suddenly the highest shoot, which is maybe on the middle, will start growing thicker stems and reaching for the light, etc. So
I also, because I start my plants in solo cups, even the clones, if I remove those bottom shoots and they get too tall, I can when I transplant them into their bigger pots, I can bury them a little bit, and then they create new roots out of that. I know not everyone likes that.
That's my reaction on it. That's all.
That's fine. But yeah, that's another reason, is because where those nodes used to be, and I've dug it out to see, and yeah, roots come out of there.
They do. And it's just something that's.
Tell me the negatives of that. The people need to know.
Negatives of that, you'll get slower growth. The plants that are intaking water are the ones up at the surface, or the roots that, sorry, the plants. The roots that are intaking the water are the ones at the surface. So you're burying that surface down 3, 4, 5 inches. That pushes it down, so then they got to grow that up at the top, and it'll slow down.
Takes more time. I see. That makes sense, actually, because that is probably what happens. It's like a longer transplant recovery almost.
Yeah, I'm all about getting things moving, get them going quickly. I have everything scheduled
Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah. And in a commercial setting, again, oh my gosh, if someone buries the stem over there, I will be the first person to come over and be like, no.
Yep. And you'll notice,
it needs to be flushed. But you also can't have it above, because that's also a pet peeve when people have the rooter like sticking out like this much above the soil, like, because then the plant gets unstable.
So how much does it drive you nuts when they put them off center?
Oh, and yeah, like, don't even get me started. I literally started training plants in that place because of these reasons, so that I could get them back up the right way, not even for any other reasons. But you'll walk into the mother room and like you see pink ribbons on like random plants, and it's not to flag anything. They're training them back because somebody put them in like this or off to the side. Some of them have like the lean like I've never seen. Like, these plants are resilient. But yeah, flush, people.
They flush out their cocoa when they put it in and it just settled.
Or yeah, just settles. Yeah, no. God, it's so bad on my eyes, like visually.
Yeah, now that you can teach them that uniformity is key. That's what you guys are looking for.
Yeah, I have a few tweaks. I have a few ideas.
Good.
Like you said about canopy, Casey, I was also going to make the point that sometimes I mean, I always aim to go like to the edges, but I also take the ray of light into consideration. So if I have a big, a thick stem branch, then we'll consider, well, does it do me better in the center of the light? So then I can just train that inwards instead, where it gets more intensity. Because why take your strongest branch and move it all to the edges? Do you feel me?
Like mainline, you mean?
I mean, instead of training a big, well-formed stem branch to the edges, you're taking it out to the edges where the intensity is low. Mm-hmm. If you have like a home grow and you have like, let's say, a 260 or 550, so you're taking it out of the footprint. I'm just always considering, if I spend so much energy on growing a thick branch, I think it makes more sense to train that
But wouldn't
thick
you
stem
want it
in.
to turn into 20 thick branches?
That's the reason I do it is I spread it to the side so that those middle ones come up and become the mains. Is that what you mean though?
Not really.
I'm a visual person, so it's hard for me to see it without seeing it, you know?
What I'm saying is
I
that
kind of get what you're saying is saying why not keep it in the middle since it's your strongest one. But when I'm training a plant, I'm trying to get multiple that are that strong, not just one. Anytime I grow a plant, it's even if I were to be growing just 3, 4, 6, whatever, I'd want to have multiple strong plants on the top, so I would be pulling as much inside the space that I have. You know, I wouldn't want space taken up by foliage. I want tops.
exactly.
Tops are where you produce your most weight. Tops are where some people think you produce the best flower. But you want tops. You want that uniformity.
But do you have a limit on tops? I mean, if you were growing a 5-gallon,
you can, and it all comes to training. I mean, even if you're growing in a 3x3 tent or whatever, I'd want to take that full 3x3 area and try and turn it all into tops, just because me from experience knowing that's where I would turn my most weight.
Yeah, I've tried multiple things, and recently I started pruning shoots until I have about 12 to 20 tops per plant. And in my experience, they grow bigger buds and you get less trimming. And also some of the local grow shop guys, shout out to Big Plant Science from Copenhagen. He is a great dude. He taught me a lot, and that's one of the first things he said to me is, well, 12 tops is enough. Like he said, like even 8. And a lot of people are just growing clones and just having a one node. So, but in my experience, I mean, those 12 tops, I find it, way easier to have a lot of big buds, and then maybe take the last row when you have harvested and you've taken all the big buds first. Well, you can save the rest for bubble ash or whatever, So just throw them straight in the freezer and forget about trimming and doing all that. Just take off the leaves and put it in the freezer.
No, I get you there, and it's again, it comes down to I hate to say it probably, but a money thing.
Yield. Yeah, in your
I hate to say it, I love growing for my patients and whatnot, but I don't grow for them for free. It takes my time, so it's you got to be compensated on that. It's, that stuff I throw in the freezer and whatnot. Yeah, it's great, but they don't like buying that. Even if I wash it and then squish it after washing it, some fresh frozen resin like that, they don't care. They'd rather have flour when it comes to it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's, that little stuff that's possibly an energy taker or time taker, because, your time is worth money. That's how you should look at things. It's,
Oh, I will never take it off. I'll never take it off. I'll try to plant it exactly when they have the small shoots and pick those off before they develop. I never go in and trim off the bottoms and flower.
No. Well, I mean, it's when I throw a plant into flower, I mean, each branch will have 3 shoots on it, maybe 4 growth spots to grow up from there. Otherwise, everything below that point is trimmed off and completely stripped. Or lollipopped, however you want to call it. So I let those grow up there, and some of them bottom ones, the fourth and third ones will get trimmed off eventually on this plant. So before they're done flowering, if it's not looking like it's going to be, no one likes a bunch of fluff.
Mm-hmm. It depends on, for me, the strain and what, like you said, what you're going to use it for. Because I make a lot of edibles and topicals over here, I need some of that. So it depends on what I'm throwing in the tent. I'll like clean up, 3 out of 4 of them to make the nice nugs for me, and then the other one I'll kind of just let it go cray.
Mine are
Whatever's going to be better for the for the edibles.
If I'm making anything, I make an RSO for them. Otherwise, it's flower. That's all my patients really care about it.
And you probably have I have different strains for what I'm going to use different things for too. Like as I dial strains, this one's good for edibles. This one's good for CBD oil. This one's good for CBD nugs. You just. Like most of my CBD too, I don't defoliate they've been pretty sativa dominant, but I leave all the larf. I don't lollipop. I just train them, but I use all of that. I just chop it all up at the end and basically use it for oil. So it really depends on me, but I do like what Alki was saying with the 10 or 12 nugs where I've really just made a nice lollipop with some really nice big uniform nugs. It just depends, what I'm doing.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the strain. I mean, if you have something critical or something like that, you can just count on the on the nugs to swell. I mean, so yeah.
I do keep bubble hash stuff like that for myself, but it's how much do I really need to keep for myself?
Yeah, and that makes sense too.
If it sits around, that's just stuff that sits around that could, grow something in it, just sit there, and things that sit around that you don't, even in the freezer, it takes up room in the freezer. The freezer costs money to run. I'd rather keep food in the freezer.
That's a great point.
My deep freeze, it's full of mostly just marijuana things and different experiments, and I'll do that later, and and one pizza.
Oh, I'm laughing.
Without a frozen pizzas, there might be some frozen burritos in there or something, but
I eat like a 20-year-old boy that's living on his own for the first time.
That's me.
I know. It's on my manifest list this year to get a little bit healthier with the food, but I work my buns off at work. It's so intense, physically laborious that the last year I've just been I can eat whatever I want. But then I forget that, it's all fine and dandy, but maybe some of the chemicals that I'm eating or ingesting are not that great.
Yeah. I also saw you posting a lot of that on your stories. You are aware of it.
I know. I lived off 7-Eleven chicken for when I first relocated to Olds. I no more city life, no more skip the dishes, no more delivery. And so I was living off of 7-Eleven chicken.
Did it glow in the dark?
Yeah, almost, I'm sure. Yeah, I'll take my usual, please, my 2 thighs, and be on my way. No, I don't want anything else. Bye.
You didn't get the mashed potatoes with them?
We don't have mashed potatoes at 7-Eleven, you lucky Americans.
Oh, I wouldn't even know either. I wouldn't even know.
We have wedges.
You think I have anything in the UP? There's nothing up here.
No, well, I do know that you're feeling it,
You don't even have the Coca-Cola truck over there. Yeah, this is like an epic celebration at Christmas.
Coca-Cola?
Yeah, Coca-Cola truck. Yeah, you're probably drinking Pepsi. I know. You're American.
I don't drink pop. Actually, that's one healthy thing about Newts is I don't drink pop at all, period. I drink water and I drink coffee, and that's it.
I try to cut down on it. But
yeah, I've just never liked it. It's not like I'm a big hero and was addicted to it and came off of it or anything. I just never liked it. And because of my colitis, my stomach and intestines and shit, pop is acid on my guts. The carbonation doesn't do do me any good either. So I just stay away. Thankfully, I don't really like it either. So coffee though, yeah, that's gonna ruin me.
And that's not good for your stomach either.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I dial it down with a lot of milk, but I still drink quite a bit of it all day long.
Yeah, same with me. Sounds like we have a similar like stomach structure or stomach acid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's a baby one. It's like rebuilding itself.
All right. Maybe we should go on. I was gonna ask Casey.
Next. Yeah.
Do you foliar spray, and what's your regulars?
Looking at the topics. Foliar. Yes, I'd love to talk about foliars.
Yes. I foliar spray with nutrients every other week with something that I use. So
it's definitely on the schedule.
Yep, it is in my schedule. Every other Monday they get foliar fed.
Right, and do you do it at lights out or?
Oh, always lights out when I'm foliar feeding.
Okay, that's the same with me. And Geneva's gone, so let's talk a little bit more about foliar feeding. I pH my foliar feeding to 5.8, but I've heard on our main show that Jack Greenstock talked about the alkalinity preventing some diseases. What do you think about that? Are you pHing your foliar?
I pH anything that touches my plants.
Right.
Everything gets pH'd. I've just learned the hard way that if you don't pH something, you're asking for trouble.
What do you pH it for? 5.8, 6.2?
Usually I'm around like 6.2.
Okay. Yeah, I will accept anything 5.7, 5.9.
Again, when I've been trying to get plants to uptake nitrogen and the growth stuff, be healthy like that lately, and I've been running my pH just a little bit higher than everyone's been running this, 5.8, 5.9, 6.0. I've been running the 6 to 6.2 lately. So my water gets a little colder in the winter, so it helps with the uptake and all that, I've noticed.
Yeah. What I've read is that you need to pH it slightly acidic to penetrate the cuticle wax on the leaf. It's obviously highly technical, but I mean, maybe there's a point there.
I use Optic Foliar as one of the products I use, and that product is supposed to help open up those pores, I guess you call them. So that's how I take care of that.
Right. It's advertised as in the bottle. What do they call that again? Optic Foliar? Yeah, what do they call that functionality, that ability?
I don't remember.
Right. Let's see if you can find it later.
Try to think where it is. I'll be back in a minute. Talk to Newts. I'll go look.
Yeah, I will.
I'm off mute now, but I pH my foliar too. I'm newly into foliating or foliar feeds. I actually can see that they do something where I wasn't on board before.
Some people are saying that even water will help, like pure water, no pH. I heard that being mentioned on our main show, if I recall correctly. My main go-to is always aloe. I use the BioBiz Activera, and because it's preserved, you don't get that aloe vera fresh. It doesn't last long. It will last like 20 minutes and it will start coagulating. But if you're using a product, it's preserved in some way. If you go to eBay, you'll usually get aloe vera with 40% aloin or more. And as far as I've understood, the aloin is like a waste product of the aloe vera. So that's why you're finding that for cheap on eBay, obviously. Yeah, Spartan Grown is saying you can spray lights on.
That's crazy talk, really?
No.
I've never heard of this optic foliar. Like I just started foliar feeds, and I do want to mention though, in case other people don't know, because I didn't realize this, that when you're foliar feeding that, it's really important to get the underside of the leaves because more of the stomata reside there.
Yeah, that's the main tactic, is to spray under the leaves.
Yeah.
I do like a nodding motion, like aim at the medium and then I nod up and just go around under the bottoms. And that kind of swings the droplets up under the leaves.
Do you use a gun or I use a pump pressure?
Yeah, I use that, not an industrial, not like, I know you Americans are going around with a trolley. Like,
no, I have nothing like that. Even at work,
okay.
Our foliar is the same thing. I gotta fucking pump it and then put it in my back and shoot things.
Yeah, I use a pump like that, but just handheld.
Atomizer.
Danger pay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't just use any. If you just use a cheap one, maybe you will just get a crazy drop size if you can't adjust it. I mean, so it has to be fine, very fine.
Yeah, the ones at work, we have the special nozzles and stuff.
Yeah, not foliar spray until it drips. I mean, you want to just, until it doesn't start making droplets, that just run off the leaf.
Yeah. Not soaking wet.
Yeah, and that's also what the wetting agent helps with. So when you're adding just a drop of wetting agent, it will reduce the surface tension and you can get that coating easier.
I usually include neem oil in my foliars.
As an IPM?
Yeah, as an IPM.
Is neem oil hard for the plants? Someone told me like neem is mean. I don't know if it's bullshit.
I mean, I don't use it in flower or right when I'm going up to flower, but I use it in early mid-veg.
The reason they say it's bad is because it is oil and they say it'll block up the stomata in the plant. That's the only reason they say neem oil is bad, besides the fact that people are showing to be allergic to it. But by the time you're getting into flower, if you're not spraying in flower and you're just using the flower material, it's not getting into, never been touched.
Yeah, and neem is just one of 5 different things I use for IPM. It's not like I use it every week or anything like that. It's just in the cycle of things I use.
And back to spraying quick with the optic, I saw Sparty threw a bunch of stuff in there about optic foliar and whatnot. The reason I do spray it with lights off, even though they say you can, is one of the other products I do whenever I try spraying lights on, it always burns it every time. So it's just a high algae product that it seems to, a lot of nitrogen in it that seems to burn whenever the lights are on. That's why I only spray it with the lights off.
I've had a few runs also where foliar doesn't seem to improve things for some strains. Like, it's just like, I don't know if it's the environment or whatever, but sometimes I feel like that on some runs, it's just, I mean, well, like sometimes it just doesn't gain me. I mean, sometimes I just see them get worse, but then I have a different one with another strain, and it just perks and it loves it, and it just tanks with foliar.
And for my IPM spraying, for my pests and whatnot, for my preventatives, I use a paint sprayer for that. An airless paint sprayer that I got from Lowe's. That way I'm covering 100% of everything, and it's breaking it up into nice fine molecules. I should say that. So. I use a different sprayer than when I'm feeding. I should clarify that. So I don't want to hide anyone from anyone.
No, I like your elaboration because I was just replying Spartan here. So right. What do you guys think?
I think I just been paying attention to the time, and I think we should start doing our closures. I still have to eat my supper, and like it's getting late, and I got to work and stuff. So, and it's getting that time.
It is.
Who wants to start? Who wants to do their shout outs and things?
1, 2, 3, not it.
All right, I'll go. I am Miss Nudie Grows, and I really just want to show you guys out. Not only are you amazing growers, but you're awesome humans, and you fully support me in all my endeavors, and I appreciate that. When I have good news, when I have bad news, you fellows are around. Great mentors, and I appreciate your friendship. Besides that, you can find me on Instagram at Miss Nudie Grows. Lots of teachings happen in my stories mostly. And on YouTube, Genevieve Eats Weed. I'm also a production manager here at Cheap Home Grow. Now that I'm rolling this stuff out, it's me and Jack doing it. So he's also mentoring me in some of that part too. So that is it. That is all. That's it for this month.
All right, then I'll go. I'll definitely shout out Michigan Grow Show, everyone on there, Spartan especially, the real ass whiz, master of all crafts, as I say. I'll shout out the GML show, Grandmaster Level show. I'll shout out Playground, my sponsor, and I'll shout out the local grow shop at where Big Plant Science also resides in Copenhagen. So I think that's about it, man. Maybe I should also shout out our previous host from Cheap Home Grow, the original host, the OG host.
OG Shane.
Because I know how great of a human he is, and just how awesome. I mean, like the whole transformation of this show into, he's made such a great impact on this community. Totally.
Absolutely.
That's like speaking from my heart. Like that dude, he's the best, really.
Hear, hear. Cheers to Shane.
Yeah. Cheers, man. We love you, buddy.
All right. So I'm Honeybear Casey on Instagram. It's a new year for everyone. Happy New Year's to everyone. Shout out to all the awesome growers here in Michigan. Keep up the good work and promoting our great state. Can't wait to show everyone what I got up and coming for the new year with new genetics that I'm running. And I put a little sneak peek out there tonight during the show on Instagram. So be sure to check that out. And I promise more content will be coming here. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's 20 people or 50 people. We know we're reaching out and people are listening to us, and that's all that matters to us. I mean, thanks to everyone. Thanks to all the followers on Instagram. I just hit 710 followers this week, so that was a little milestone. Take a little dab for that one. So
I'll even take a dab for that. Cheers.
It's a lot for an introvert like me that doesn't like talking to people. So it's weird. From 10 years ago, we didn't want anyone to know we're growing weed. Now there's people actually following me growing weed online. It's a weird thing.
That's gotta be surreal, for real. I can't even imagine.
It's very surreal. So thank you again to everyone. Look forward to seeing you all again next month, and I can't wait for it. We'll talk to you all soon. Thank you again.
Bye, guys. See you next week.